A 21-year-old devoted student was just a few months away from graduating college when tragedy struck on the 7th of January, 1978. She'd been found raped and strangled in her college apartment, and her family was kept in the dark for decades as they had no answers to who would want to hurt her. Finally, after 21 years, advancement in DNA technology would crack the case wide open and eventually lead investigators to an offender who was already known by the police. Hello, and welcome back to Mystery Detective. Please support my channel by subscribing and hitting the bell icon for more crime cases. Today's case takes us to Tempe, Arizona. Tempe is popular for being the home of Arizona State University. The city features a pleasant and active lifestyle and a lively downtown with many stores, bars, and eateries. Tempe Town Lake is a well-liked destination for pleasure and relaxation. However, despite the calm and fun the city offered, in 1978, a crazed criminal was out attacking young women. A few of these women got away with their lives, but Deana Bowdoin never had a chance to. Deana Bowdoin was born on the 28th of July, 1956, to Harold and Beulah Bowdoin. Her parents, Harold and Beulah, met in high school and both graduated from Arizona State University before getting married and having two daughters named Leslie and Deana. Beulah Bowdoin taught second grade, and Harold was a former employee at Honeywell. As a child growing up in Phoenix, Deana Bowdoin was an honor student who attended Camelback High School after completing her elementary education at Squaw Peak Elementary. She participated in the 1974 Phoenix Honors Cotillion as a debutante and finished as the organization's first runner-up for the Debutantes of the Year Academic Award. Deana was a talented young lady who seemed to have her life figured out. After high school, she gained admission into Arizona State University, where she was studying marketing management. Deana Bowdoin was a member of the International Business Honor Society, Beta Gamma Sigma, and she was an honor student. After taking the LSAT and the Foreign Service Officers exams, she was thinking about a career in law, international marketing, or diplomacy. Aside from doing well in school, Deana was a kind-hearted young woman who had opened hands and welcomed everyone. Whether the person was elderly or whether they were little kids, she just seemed to be able to talk and relate to them, her elder sister, Leslie, said. Before her demise, in addition to being a certified scuba diver, Deana Bowdoin was a talented poet. In her short years on Earth, she had the opportunity to study abroad in Spain, Mexico, and Belgium. She often kept a private calendars in which she wrote down the birthdays of loved ones and also future plans to go dancing at a nearby disco and a road trip to Guaymas, Mexico. Unfortunately, these plans were never achieved as her dreams and aspirations were tragically cut short on the 7th of January, 1978. On the evening of January 6, 1978, Deana Bowdoin visited her family home, where she ultimately had dinner. After dinner, she made a move to start going back to her college apartment when her parents requested for her to spend the night at home instead. Deana, however, objected and chose to sleep in her own apartment because she had to report for work at a law firm the following day. She then left her family home and met up with a friend at a nearby bar. At 12:30 a.m. at midnight, Deana Bowdoin would be last seen alive, exiting the bar and driving towards her college apartment. Around 2 a.m., Deana Bowdoin's boyfriend arrived at the apartment and discovered her dead on her bed. In the bedroom, her clothing was messy. A belt was tightly wrapped around her neck, and there were marks on her right wrist, alongside multiple stab wounds. Sadly, Deana had been stabbed, raped, and strangled to death. She had semen on her underwear and vagina, but it couldn't be definitively linked to any suspect. Her family was devastated with the news and felt they could have convinced her more to stay behind after dinner. Deana's boyfriend was a suspect on the list of the police, but he was eventually ruled out after a series of interrogation. Days after the murder, investigators did all they could to find the culprit, but all efforts proved abortive. The murder of Deana Bowdoin remained unsolved for more than 20 years and was labeled a cold case until 23 years later, in 2001, when Tempe police detective Tom Magazzini was using cutting-edge DNA technology to investigate cold cases that had been on the shelves since 1990. While at it, he stumbled upon Deana Bowdoin's cold case and decided to check the case evidence against a brand new national database. It took a while, but a match was established, and the killer of Deana Bowdoin was eventually identified to be Clarence Dixon. The investigators were surprised because the killer was an already known criminal who was serving a life sentence in an Arizona state prison for a 1986 sexual assault conviction. A background check on Clarence Dixon revealed that during his early years, as a member of the Navajo Nation, he was subjected to abuse and had serious health issues. According to medical reports, Dixon was born with a congenital cardiac defect because of insufficient oxygenation. During further investigation, detectives discovered that Clarence Dixon was living across the street from Deana Bowdoin in 1978. 2 years before Deana's murder, in 1976, Clarence Dixon was married and was taking engineering classes as a former student of Arizona State University before dropping out a year later in 1997 due to mental illness. According to court records, Clarence Dixon's problems with alcoholism and drug addiction resulted in his divorce in 1978. Backtrack to 1977. Dixon was arrested and charged for hitting a 15-year-old girl on the head with a pipe. He claimed the young teenager reminded him of his ex-wife. He, however, could not stand trial after psychologists determined that he had schizophrenia. He was then sent to Arizona State Hospital for treatment. Once his competency was restored, Judge Sandra Day O'Connor, who presided over the Maricopa County Superior Court at the time, declared him not guilty by reason of insanity. She then determined that Clarence Dixon needed to be civilly committed to the state hospital because he was so harmful to the community and mentally sick. However, the county attorney's office and courts did not launch commitment proceedings right away and instead freed the prisoner. Their action would eventually result into Deana Bowdoin being brutally killed by Dixon 2 days later. He didn't stop there. Few months after Deana Bowdoin passed away, Clarence Dixon stabbed another lady in her Tempe residence. He then received a sentence for burglary and knife assault. 6 years later, almost immediately after leaving jail, he was given a life sentence for raping a student from Northern Arizona University who was out on a jog. Clarence Dixon was charged for raping and killing Deana Bowdoin. However, a statute of limitations caused the rape charge to be eventually withdrawn. Clarence Dixon was given the death penalty on January 24, 2008 after being found guilty of first-degree murder. During trial, the defense team for Clarence Dixon claimed that he was paranoid schizophrenic, mentally incompetent, and had a history of recurrent hallucinations. These claims, however, were never considered by the jury. In the year 2015, Dixon was deemed legally blind. The state of Arizona stopped all executions in 2014 after Joseph Wood's lethal injection execution went wrong. The state was forced to employ a new lethal injection combination as a result of lawsuits that were filed. The state looked for a new and authorized medication for executions after a protracted search. In the year 2020, the Arizona Department of Corrections spent $1.5 million on 1,000 vials of the drug called pentobarbital. The state also said in 2021 that it had renovated its gas chamber, giving prisoners the choice of being put to death by lethal gas. The state of Arizona declared it was prepared to resume executions in April 2021. Clarence Dixon was among the first 2 prisoners to be put to death. Dixon was due to be put to death on October 19, 2021. The authorities initially claimed that the lethal injection chemicals they would be using in the execution would expire after 90 days, but then later admitted that they would only be good for 45 days. Following the finding, Arizona attorney General Mark Brnovich requested that the Arizona Supreme Court to reschedule the execution date so that it will fall within the time the lethal injections were still effective. On July 12, 2021, the Arizona Supreme Court, however, rejected the motion to expedite the execution, and Clarence Dixon's death sentence was put on hold. The following year, in January 2022, General Mark Brnovich requested again that the Arizona Supreme Court establish briefing schedule for the execution of Clarence Dixon. The fatal injection medication had undergone additional testing, and according to Brnovich, they would be effective for at least 90 days. The Arizona Supreme Court then issued an execution warrant for Clarence Dixon on April 5, 2022, setting the date of his execution for May 11, 2022. Dixon was given the option of a fatal injection or a gas execution. He, however, declined to select a method. The state of Arizona declared on April 20 that Dixon would be put to death by lethal injection, the standard procedure for a prisoner who doesn't make a choice. On May 11, 2022, Dixon was put to death by lethal injection, becoming the first person to be executed in Arizona since 2014. At 10:19 a.m., the injection got underway, and at 10:30 a.m., 11 minutes later, he was declared dead. Dixon insisted on his innocence in his closing remarks.